The Chicago Bulls come close, but unfortunately, they do not have enough to win this game against the Sacramento Kings. Zach LaVine puts up his sixth straight 30-point game. We're going to talk about it all and more, but you know what we got to do first.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Hayes, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Terrey Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it, man. This was a rough game for the Chicago Bulls. Unfortunately, they just did not have enough down the stretch of this game. They performed really good throughout this game. This was a battle between these two teams. And unfortunately, the Chicago Bulls just did not have enough to come out on the right side of victory in this game. It really sucks because, you look at the way that the team performed, right? And how Lonzo Ball has his high in shooting for today. Zach LaVine has he matches his high. He's on a career-long streak that he did this in, right? And it just is unfortunate because it just came down to execution. The Kings were just the better team down the stretch of this game. That just is what it is. You win some, you lose some. I will go on to say this. If the Bulls played the same exact way and them and the Kings face off against each other 3 times, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulls win 1 or 2 times out of that. It just wasn't their night. They didn't have it, unfortunately. And that's just the way that it goes, right? When you look at the minutia of the game, the Kings in the fourth quarter of this game just executed better. And they executed better. Yeah, there were some refs, some officiating. We know that's going to happen with the DeMar DeRozan team. You look at the Chicago Bulls, 2 free throws in the fourth quarter in the second half of this game. Oh, just the fourth quarter of this game. The Sacramento Kings had 7 free throw attempts in the fourth quarter of this game. It's unfortunate. The Kings shoot 47% in the fourth quarter. The Bulls shoot 39%. And while the Bulls shot better from 3, going 4 of 6 from the 3-point line, overall, the Kings just shot more, and they got to the free throw line more. That's really the discrepancy. Both teams made 9 field goals in the fourth quarter of this game. Both teams made 9 field goals. The Kings did it way more efficiently, and they chipped in 6 points from the free throw line, whereas the Bulls only chipped in 2 points from the free throw line. That really was a big discrepancy in this. You look at the Bulls, they did have 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter of this game. The Kings, they only had 4. They had 4 more than us. But it's just that execution piece. And that's always what it comes down to with this team. So often, execution is the thing that has separated the Bulls from other teams that they face in close games like this. And so, that's the thing that the Bulls really need to look at is how to execute better. Of course, I know we didn't have Ayo, we didn't have Coby. I don't think it's as simple as saying that if we did have those guys, things would have gone much better, mainly just because of how good Lonzo Ball played today. And so overall with that, it is what it is. The Bulls should be able to take something away from this game and realize that they performed pretty adamantly, right? Solid game from them. Overall, very solid game from the Chicago Bulls in this game. I'm not mad at this loss. This isn't one of those losses I look at and I say, hey, I'm terribly upset at, right? They competed. And when you're going to lose some games, even if you do compete well. The Bulls competed in every stretch of this game. Throughout this whole game, they had the lead for so long in this game as well. And unfortunately, the Bulls just couldn't pull it out. The Bulls had the lead for 28 minutes in this game, only 13 for the Sacramento Kings when it come down to it. And 28 lead changes, and we were tied 13 times in this game as well. And unfortunately, the Bulls they didn't have enough to pull it out. It just is what it is. It just is what it is, man. And, I'll say this. Were there mistakes made down the stretch? Josh Giddey made some mistakes down the stretch. Zach LaVine made some mistakes down the stretch. But when you look at overall with the concept of the game, like we needed Zach to do what he did tonight, at least in my opinion. I don't look at this as a negative from Zach LaVine in the way that he performed or that he wasn't able to get the Bulls over the hump or anything like this. It just was a game that they just didn't have it. They just didn't have it in this game. And, it's unfortunate, man. And, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Flockavelli says this is a tank win. It is what it is, man. But, Billy coaching as well for Billy Donovan, that inbounds play left a lot to be desired, and he got to tighten that up. I think that he does. And if he does, we'll see if he can end up getting it together. But, overall, man, solid team play. I like the way that the team tried to go out there and do something. What the hell? I like the way that the team tried to go out there and do some things, but you got to take losses. You're going to take some losses, and you're not going to win them all. You're not going to be in a position to win them all. But the Bulls were in a position of a very, very tight and close game. The way that they played in this game, it gave me if you play more like this in games, I think that they'll be fine. I think that they'll be fine, and I would think that they would win a lot of games if they're able to compete like this consistently. And listen, for Lonzo's first start in 3 years, Lonzo Ball, man, he played extremely, extremely well, man. We moved the ball well today, as well. 26 assists on 43 made baskets. Of course, I would like to see that a little bit closer to 30 assists. That's kind of been the sweet spot for the Chicago Bulls. If the Bulls can get 30 assists, usually they're winning games, right? And so, that's just something to look at, with this team. Overall, they passed the ball well. We had 26 assists, which created 65 points in this, and we only had one turnover off a bad pass. Only one turnover off a bad pass. And now that ranking is you can ask what categorizes as a bad pass, right? But only one turnover off a bad pass. And overall, like I said, the Bulls, they can take some things away from this game, especially for when you look at the way that the Kings have been performing here lately. You can take some things around this game, man, and pull it together. And let's hope that the team can do that. Let's really hope that they can do that. Let's have some faith. Let's see what they can do. And, overall, it's this, man. The Bulls got a lot of things that they need to work on, which we all know, right? We all know that this team is not a finished product. Hell, AK said it himself. This team is not a finished product at all. The roster's not finished. Before a team that really is lacking a lot of the things that are needed to really compete high up, I got to give the team credit for how they were able to pull it together today. Again, not saying that this is a perfect, or we can't grow from this and learn some things that we must do better in a case like this, because those things absolutely exist. They always do in a Bulls game. But I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and I think that this is a game that if the Bulls can bottle up some of this and try to use this to kind of establish a style of play or something like that, I think that it can help them a lot. Dalen Terry had some really good possessions and rotations in this game as far as passing. Dalen Terry, I've said this always, half court passing Dalen Terry leaves a lot to be desired. Fast break passing Dalen Terry is something to behold, right? We only had 4 assists coming off the bench. 1 of those coming from Jalen Smith, 3 of those coming from Dalen Terry. And the reason why I point that out is when you look at usually our bench distributor in Lonzo Ball was starting today. So we needed somebody, because we know we don't have isolation scorers coming off the bench. We just don't. So you need somebody who's going to do some of the distributing. Now, Billy Donovan, he tinkered with the minutes, right, to have Lonzo Ball and Josh Giddey, because, again, you only have 24 minutes that you play Lonzo Ball. So he staggered those minutes a little bit, but Dalen Terry's facilitating is something that I really would like to see the Bulls kind of create more organically, right, as far as sometimes, especially Dalen's a solid rebounder, not a great rebound. Here's what I'll say. He's in position for a lot of rebounds. He doesn't always get the rebounds, right? So maybe that could be something as he grows in that part of his game as well. He can start being that facilitator off the bench a little bit as well. Patrick Williams in this game, 2 for 8 in the first half of the game. He had 8 rebounds. 5 rebounds, 8 points, 1 assist, and 1 block, I think, in the first half of this game. In the second half, no points scored at all from Patrick Williams. He got no more rebounds in the game, but he did get another block. He did get a steal, and he did get a couple of more assists. So the way I've been judging Patrick Williams is I just want to see P. Will active. That's what I want to see from Patrick Williams. And while he did go 1 of 4 in the second half of this game, he had 2 assists and he had a steal. So and a block. And as a role player, I've been very hard on P. Will lately. Very, very hard on P. Will lately. I'll give him some credit for being active tonight. He was active tonight. Still left a lot to be desired, but he was active tonight. But I will say this, THT, another player that I've been fairly hard on. He gave us some solid minutes in today's game. Not always great. Shot the ball okay, right? But when you're missing so much of your bench production, missing Ayo, Lonzo's in your starting lineup. The 10 points from Talen Horton-Tucker we needed. 9 points from Jalen Smith as well in this game. We needed that. And overall, I'll say this. For no Ayo and no Lonzo to be your distributor off the bench, to get 9 points from Jalen, 2 points from Dalen Terry, 5 points from Modest Bucilis, 4 points from Julian Phillips and 10 points from Taylor Horton Tucker. Almost 30 points. No, over 30 points off the bench, right? Am I not counting that right? Almost 30 points off the bench. For what we're lacking, I'll take that. Right? So it just, those things that the Bulls need to do to start becoming a winning team are starting to happen a little bit more consistently, is all I'm saying, right? You just got to get it you just got to get it in there, right, man? And again, I've been very hard on some of these Bulls players lately. So I do, and it does sound participation trophy-ish, but Patrick Williams being as active and aggressive as he started off this game with, he wanted the DeMar DeRozan assignment. Zach LaVine took that over eventually, but I just want to give him credit for being active, but we still need a lot more from P. Will. He's still playing like an eighth man in a rotation to me. He's a starter, 34 minutes for those numbers. That's not good. But when you judge it on the P. Will scale, right, the passive P scale, it's okay. It's okay, right? And maybe I'm being a little soft tonight and not wanting to go the hell off on P. Will again for the third day in a row. But it was on the P. Will scale, it was cool. On the basketball NBA starter list, it's still in the damn toilet. It's still in the toilet. But it is what it is when it comes down to that, man. Nikola Vučević today. Here's what I'll say about Vuč, man. The 18 points was really good. The 8 rebounds, though, I gotta critique Vuč a little bit on that now. I think when you're facing off against Sabonis, 16 points from Sabonis, it is what it is. That's not a good matchup, but I'll tell you what, Vuč usually gets cooked by Sabonis. For Sabonis to only have 22 points, going 8 of 11, which is really efficient, but for Vuč to almost match him, he went 8 of 15 for 18 points, less efficient, but the fact that the discrepancy between those two scoring-wise, okay, the rebounding aspect of it, Vuč got to be better. We need Vuč. I would be really interested to see how many games do we win this season when Vuč doesn't have double-digit rebounds, right? I may dig into that analytic a little bit, right? Because I think that is something to really look at. We need Vuč's rebounding. It's not a want anymore. Vuč's rebounding is a need for this team. And if you don't get it, like the team is clearly at a deficit when they don't have it. So, we need that rebounding from Vuč. We need him to be better in that aspect of it. But the Sabonis matchup, I understand, is a rough one for him. We got to be better in that. We got to be better in that. But overall, like getting back to this game, I say this. Zach LaVine made some decisions down the stretch that I didn't like. Josh Giddey had some fouls down the stretch that hurt the team. But Billy Donovan's coaching. Inbound plays yet again. I remember there was somebody that said they were new to the Chicago Bulls, and they mentioned, well, why didn't we just call a timeout and draw up an inbound play? And I was like, oh, you got to be. That's the biggest sign of you being a new Bulls fan, because we're terrible at inbound play calls. And unfortunately, that reared its ugly head again today. Billy Donovan and how he draws up inbound plays, it needs to be studied so that every coach in the NBA knows this is not what you do. Look at this guy, do the exact opposite. Because Billy Donovan's inbound play calls, especially in crunch time, they're a little bit better when we have the lead or when we have kind of a sizable lead. And I don't know if that just is a tension thing for Billy Donovan, but I'll say this, like when games get close and you need to be able to score a bucket out of an inbound play, Billy Donovan leaves so much to be desired in the way that he calls inbound plays. He needs to be better than that. He got to be better than that. I don't know if you need to go to Dan Craig. I don't know if you need to go to Wes Unseld. I don't know if you need to call Ben Johnson to draw up a offensive inbound play call for you. But you got to do something. You got to find something out with that one, because, hey, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. But yeah, we just got those things that we need to develop. We got those things that we need to grow. We got those things that we need to get together. And here's the thing. I still don't think that this team is the team that some Bulls fans see it as they look at it and say, oh, we're a team that could really compete to make the playoffs outright. Like somebody said earlier, we can be a 6 seed. I still don't see that. But this team does have the chance to be a playing team. It does have that chance to be a playing team. And it just comes down to a few things that are out of their control, right? I want to be clear here. It's not all in the Bulls' control. I would love that it is. But how much does Philly turn it around? That's a big part in this. They're down 10-5 right now to the Orlando Magic. But I think if Philly ever starts hitting a stride where they win like 8 out of 10, 6 out of 7, lose 2, win 5 straight. If they start doing anything like that, it's going to be a little worrisome for the Bulls to make the play-in. But when you look at the teams, like other than that, they can compete with Atlanta, right? We're not that far off from Atlanta. Detroit, I feel like Detroit's that young team that's about to take off the rest of the East. And then the top 6 teams in the East, they may change places a little bit. I don't think we can necessarily catch those guys, but the Bulls are going to be contending for the 10th or even the 9th seed, depending on how some things go in that play-in. Now, for my keep the pick fans, I know that that's worrisome to hear, and I understand that. I'm still in the camp where I think that it's best for the Bulls' future to be able to keep that pick. But with all things said, this is what the team is doing. This is what it's saying, right? So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But the team got some things that they need to look at. They got some things that they absolutely need to grow and develop. And if they can do it, great, right? Like, we'll see what this team can do. We'll see what this team can compete with. We'll see what this team has. We'll see if this team can get it together. We'll see if they can. I'm not guaranteeing that they will, right? I'm not even saying that that's necessarily what I want. I don't know what I want the Chicago Bulls team to do anymore. I really don't know what I want them to do anymore. I enjoy watching them play and compete like this. I enjoy watching them fight. I enjoy all those things. But at the same time, you still got to look at the future of this team. And what is it going to really take to improve the future of this team? What is it going to take to get to the place that this team needs to get to? What are those things that are going to happen to get there? And like I said in many daily episodes, it's not just about, oh, well, I want them to keep the pick. It's about taking the path that leads you, that you feel is going to lead you to actually getting out the middle eventually, right? And if this team is going to stay together, who are you going to add? And that's the biggest question that I have here. Who are you going to add? Because we don't have the assets, right? We don't have a bunch of free agent assets. We don't have a lot of picks that we can just give up. I don't think the Bulls are in the place where they should give up any future picks. Even if they lose the Spurs pick, I think that they should keep their picks going forward because you really want to keep a young crop of talent coming in. But then again, even on the reverse side of that, can we even trust that this team is going to draft correctly to help get us out the middle, right? There's so many things that are going up here right now that, it is what it is, man. This team is in a really weird place. It's in a really weird place. And I think overall it comes down to, I doubt AK and Eversley's resolve and mental to help get us out of that place, right? That's what it comes down to. The resolve and mental to help us get out of that place. Now, I haven't talked much about the Kings. I do think they deserve to be talked about a little bit in this one. De'Aaron Fox, 26 points in his game back, 9 of 16, really big for this Kings team. DeMar DeRozan, 9 of 20 for 21 points, not necessarily efficiently. That's why I do like the defense that Zach played. Now, DeMar hit some really big, important shots down the stretch. But again, Domantas Sabonis with 22 points, Malik Monk with 18 points. They didn't really do much off the bench. The starters, just the balance there. The balance there really got the Chicago Bulls today. And they just got to figure it out, man. They got to figure it out. And this is a team that got a lot of tough things and tough decisions that they need to make. They got a lot of tough decisions that they need to make. And we'll see what could come out of that, man. Hayes, the last play where Josh Giddey got a foul on Fox was versus because he went up very vertically and didn't bring his hands down. Yeah, but here's the thing. You don't want to put yourself, and again, I'm not saying that the refs were wrong for calling that play. And you put yourself in kind of you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because let's say Josh Giddey doesn't contest that shot and he doesn't get the foul call. That's a shot that De'Aaron Fox has made before, right? So then you still get the 2 points. And I think that that's something you need to look at as well. Like, I get it. And I'm not saying that your criticism over that is wrong, because it's not. But I do think that it brings some, you just got to ask some questions on what you got to do there. You got to ask some questions about that, right? So we'll see what happens. Todd says, come over to keep. Listen, I've been on keep the pick. I'm not saying what I want. I'm saying that what I think this team will do. Those are very different things. I can say my wants all day long for this team. But the fact of the matter is that I don't know if that's what this team is realistically going to do. I just don't know, right? I don't know if that's what this team is going to do. And that's where it leads me. Like, I think right now in this draft specifically, it would probably be better to keep the pick than give it up, right? That's my personal opinion. But I have to also realize, and it would be unfair if I didn't realize and say, that doesn't seem like what this front office is trying to do, though. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem like this front office right now has the palate or the desire to keep this pick. they more so are like, well, if we're bad, we're bad. If we keep it, we keep it, right? And they may still, and I've said it before, there is a scenario in which this team keeps going this path and keeps this pick. There is, right? If Philly catches up and plays really good, whatever, it could happen. But again, do you really want to take that chance? But then again, I'll say this too. At this point, the Bulls would have to be number 6 to guarantee that they're going to keep this pick. And I don't think that they can get that bad either, right? I don't think that I'm not, some people are in the camp that, oh, the Bulls they've won too many games to keep their pick. I don't think that. But I do think that they've won too many games to guarantee that they're going to keep their pick. That's the thing, right? I don't see this team having a bottom 6 record in the NBA. And thus, because they don't have a bottom 6 record in the NBA, it's always going to be a chance that they lose the pick. Imagine this. Let's say that the Bulls do trade Vučević and Zach, which could happen. Let's just say they do that, right? And then let's say they do that. They miss the play-in, but then in the lottery, 2 teams jump ahead of them and they still lose the pick. How would Bulls fans react to that? And that's where we are at this point in time. We are in a place where realistically, this team can still trade Zach or trade Vučević and still lose considerably for the rest of the season and still lose their pick. At this point, they've waited too long to really commit to just keeping the pick. They just have, right? Now, they can increase their chances to keep the pick, right? They can definitely increase their chances, but I don't think that we're in the realm anymore that we can lose enough to keep our pick, right? And let me look at the standings real quick. Let me make sure I'm not talking out the side of my neck on this, which I could be, right? Let's look at the bottom 6 records in the NBA. So you have the Pelicans with 8 wins, the Jazz with 9 wins, the Portland Trailblazers with 13 wins. And then you got 3 teams in the East, the Hornets, the Raptors, and the Wizards, all with single-digit wins, right? And then even the Brooklyn Nets, we know that they're probably going to lose a lot as they keep trading off their roster. That's 7 teams. I don't think that the Bulls can be worse than the Pelicans, the Jazz, the Trailblazers, and then the Wizards, the Raptors, the Hornets, and the Nets. That's 7 teams. I don't think that the Bulls can be that bad for the rest of the year. So they're outside of the ability to keep their pick, to ensure that they're going to keep their pick. They would have had to literally probably be 10, 11 wins at this point to be in the place where they can guarantee that they're keeping their pick. And because they can't do that, that leads you in a place where you got to really review your options. You got to review your options. And those options are really tough right now for the Chicago Bulls. So again, and I'm not saying that was the right path. Please don't confuse that. I'm not saying that was the right path, that that's where they should have went. I'm just saying right now, if the Bulls do start making trades, it's to gain assets, to gain some draft picks and moving their players. It's to eliminate some salary cap relief, whether it's immediate or just less time, and then maximize their chances to keep their pick. I think we've passed the point of no return to where we can say we can get assets, we can lessen our salary, and we can guarantee we keep our pick. I think we're too far gone for that, right? So, and I think that's where we are. And again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have come to a realization sooner in what they want to do. I'm just here looking at where we realistically are right now. And we're not really at the place where we can guarantee we keep our pick. We're just not. We're not, unfortunately, right? So is it better for AK to look at this team and say, we're going to compete for the rest of the season? If we don't get our pick this year, at least we own all our first round picks outright, right? 2026 is another deep draft. And I'll say this, if you go into 2026 and you don't have to worry about your positioning, right? You don't have to worry and say, oh, we need to be at least this bad to keep our pick. Maybe there's some freedom in that. You can still move Zach. You can still trade Vučević. He's an expiring contract. So you can still try to get some assets. I just think that at this point, the Bulls making sure that they keep their pick in 2025, they can't guarantee it anymore. They can only increase the chance and get some assets back. That's all they can do right now. And that's just the realistic place that this team is in. And they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out. And hopefully they can do so, right? That's all we can hope for with this team, is hopefully that they can get a place to where they gain some clarity. Hopefully they can gain some clarity. If not, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. It just is what it is. So, and when you have players, Torrey Craig's out with injury, Coby White's out with injury, Ayo Dosunmu's out with injury, right? I mean, it is what it is, right? And so at some point, though, AK has to realize, and he really doesn't have that much time left. The trade deadline is February 8th, I believe, which is a Saturday. It's actually before Super Bowl Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Trade deadline. Let me make sure. Give me 1 second. It's actually February 6th. I apologize. February 6th. So it's the Thursday before the Super Bowl. We'll see what the Bulls do at that point in time. We'll see what they do. Per what we've heard from Julia Poe, there are no real serious trade conversations going on right now with the Bulls. There are none. So, it just is what it is, man. It is what it is. It's really unfortunate that that's where we are right now as a team. We got some things that we need to work on, and we'll see what we can get to. Like, overall, I just hope that this team can find a direction, right? That's what you want, is your team to find and have a direction. Right now, the Chicago Bulls have, and they have not found a direction. They just haven't. They haven't. They have no direction as it stands right now. And so this team that has been in the middle, that has talent, right? I think some people confuse having talent with meaning that you have a direction. Being in the middle is not a direction, right? Because you can go either way. Being in the middle means that literally if teams improve ahead of you, you're at the bottom. If teams get worse ahead of you, you can stay in the middle, right? So it doesn't really, I don't look at that as a direction. Yes, we have talent on this roster. But with that said, this roster still lacks some serious direction. And eventually you have to find that, or it finds you. And the place that you really don't want to be in as a franchise in the NBA or in any sport is your direction finds you. You want to choose your direction. That way you can plan. That way you can set it up. That way you can know what's coming. That way you can have expectations. That way you can prepare. I think I already said the prepare part. But right now, with where the Bulls are, if they continue down this path and eventually the direction chooses them, it may be too late for them to course correct. At that point, they're just going to have to grab on to their seat and do the best they can to steer it at that point in time. So you really don't want to allow your direction to choose you. And that's what's happened so much for this. So much for this. And we'll see what happens. We will really see what happens with this team and in the future. And I'll say this. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that universally Bulls fans are happy with. It could end up where no Bulls fan is happy. Keep in mind, like I said, there's still a world in which this team competes and misses the play-in. So for my Bulls fans that say, let's not move anybody, let's keep it going. If the Philadelphia 76ers did not start off the season with the injuries that they had, we would be out of the play-in right now. Now, you could say woulda, coulda, shoulda, what if about a lot of teams. So maybe that may not be a fair statement, right? But I just say that to say this, is that there is a world in which my Bulls fans that say, let's not trade anybody, we don't want to get worse, that this team stays the same and still misses the play-in. There is a world in which my Bulls fans that want to see us tank, that we trade Zach or we trade Vuč or we trade both of them and we still miss out on our pick. There is a world in which nothing happens. And again, in the middle, there's a world in which we're bad for the rest of the year. We miss the play-in. And we still don't keep the pick. So there's no one path and one way that guarantees this Bulls team does anything. And that, in a lot of ways, is the scariest part of all of this, right? It's the scariest part of us getting here. It's the scariest part of all of this. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. And eventually, like I said, either they choose a path or a path chooses them. And depending on what happens with that, I mean, all we can do as fans is dig in, hold on, and hope for the best. That's all we can do. Dig in, hold on, and hope for the best. And we'll see where it is. And I'll be covering it here every day at Chicago Bulls Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but you already know that's because you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace. Hold on, wait a second. I can't play the winning outro. Bam.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.